the spirit of Russia is actually the most difficult, in my view, aspect of Russian life for a Westerner to understand. If we had to summarize it in a few words, we could say that in the West, human beings, despite everything, are understood as an end in themselves. Human being, personality, human life is not treated as something that can be lightly disposed of. In Russia, the individual is a means to an end. It can be used for any purpose that the authorities get into their heads and any crazy political scheme. He's devalued, and his life and personality, compared to the great goals of the state, whatever those goals may be, and they often change, has little value. Anybody who had any doubt about this need only to take a walk in Moscow, in the center of Moscow, in the area of Lubyanskaya Ploshchad, which is or Lubyanskaya Square, which was formerly named Dzerzhinsky Square and which was graced at one time by a statue of Felix Dzerzhinsky, the first head of the Soviet secret police. If one walks down Bolshaya Dzerzhinsky Street to Varsonovsky Peryulik, or it's Varsonovsky Lane, one is unlikely to pay much attention to a three-story building on that corner, painted green, with friezes of Greek gods and goddesses along the wall, unwashed, and unlike the other buildings in the area, not restored in any way. If you look inside, you might see a photocopying machine. There are air conditioners on the upper floors. There's nothing about the place to suggest that it was a scene of mass executions from 1917 to 1914. That in the basement, the building was called the Ship of Death by residents of the area, and the basement was outfitted as a massive execution chamber.
The real picture, what's going on in the country, is slightly different from the traditional black and white image that we probably have in the back of our mind. So that is why so-called independent Russia, or some people even would be so courageous to say free Russia, and would put in some kind of not completely, so it just could be slightly different from very last years of the former Soviet Union. My second point concerns the the book has many stories, personal stories, stories of hundreds and thousands and millions of people. They are very important, but constantly David comes to the question of what is the reason, or what are the reasons of the what he sees as a passivity of substantial portion of population and impunity of new so-called ruling elite, or new caste, or new nobility, as all those terms becoming now very well known.
I thought this was a beautifully crafted book. There's a strong and persuasive analytical argument, but it's unveiled in a very subtle and literary way. There are passages that are history, there are interviews with people who'd been touched by the terror, or their families had been touched by the terror. There are stories about their lives, and then there are different visits to former camps and to burial sites. And David has a remarkable breadth in the way that he approaches the issue. He comes at it from a lot of different angles and uses all kinds of sources. So the argument emerges from very different sources and from very different experiences, and it kind of I almost feel uncomfortable pulling out the kind of hard analytical bits, because there's so much that is just very good literature and good history that's there.
I think it is very important to understand, and I say this as a lawyer, that with the passage of time, it will be impossible to try those people who caused so many of these murders. But I must say, human rights organizations in the world today overemphasize this issue of individual accountability. Part of the problem in Russia today is the systemic issue. What Primo Levi, when he spoke of the Holocaust, called the gray zone. Those people who were doing their duty, who committed the crimes within the context of doing their duty. And the problem we all need to face is those people are in power in Russia today. We are not going to have the accountability because so many of the perpetrators are either in power or close to it and need to continue the ideology that they grow with now, because to allow for that dramatic historical break delegitimizes their claim to power. So to that extent, it is an impossibility in a way for us to seek from Medvedev, as many did, or from Putin, any dramatic change. And you know, it was incredible to watch the transfer of power between Putin and Medvedev, the incredible cynicism, the belief in their own impunity, the belief, as in Soviet times, that they could do something so clearly farcical and get away with it.